it's Christian, we're talking about it. This is The Mike Charleston Show.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of The Mike Charleston Show. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, how you doing? I am joined with Chuck.
Hey, guys.
And Sarah.
I'm here.
And I think my cameras are doing something funny. I don't know what's going on, but we'll just change that. Okay. They're fading into you guys. So anyways, this is an episode we're doing a little early because we will be in Canada next week.
That's right.
So visiting our daughter.
Montreal.
Yeah, Joshua's not paying attention, so I got to pay attention. Okay. Here we go. So anyway, so this episode, we are going to be talking about a interesting topic, the Ten Commandments, basically.
10 Commandments.
And what kind of brought this on is what Jesus said. You know, if you love me, you'll keep my commandments, right?
Yeah.
If you love me, you'll keep my commandments. So what does that mean, the Ten Commandments? And
well, I mean, I don't know what other commandments are in the Bible. It says keep my commandments. And we hear commandments, I think everybody thinks of the 10.
You don't know what other commandments are in the Bible?
Okay,
We may be here a while.
I actually do know some others. But when you hear commandments, I feel like everybody thinks the 10.
They go to the Ten Commandments for sure. That is for sure. So, okay, that's that. Okay. I'm getting used to these cameras, and Chuck's microphone's right there. Right there. Squeeze it in. There we go. A little bit. Yeah, or you can move me over a little bit, Joshua. Okay, whatever. Live. You got to love live. Mm. So, anyway, so the Ten Commandments. So, where are we going to start, babe?
Well, I mean, you mentioned John 14:15, where it says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And we asked the question, is that referring to the 10 Commandments? So, and I also have this passage from Matthew, where a lawyer comes and asks Jesus a question.
Yes.
Do you know the question the lawyer asked Jesus?
Was it get Gordon?
It wasn't get Gordon. But he tempted him and he said, Master, which is the greatest commandment in the law?
Yes. And the interesting thing is he didn't name a commandment. The Ten Commandments.
Not one of the 10.
He actually kind of went to the Shema. He went to Deuteronomy 6 and said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, strength. And the second one is like unto it, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are the two greatest commandments.
Yep.
Right.
He didn't name one of the 10 commandments. That would have been a good point where he says, hey, if you want to get to heaven, here's the 10 commandments. You got to live it, especially the Sabbath day for all the Sabbath keepers. You know?
Right.
But
Yeah.
he doesn't mention any of the commandments. Why? Because those two laws sum up all the laws and the prophets.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You keep those two, then you'll keep the other 10.
Right. Right.
It works that way, right?
Well, and then we were talking about the 10 Commandments, but when we're talking about the law, we are talking about 613 laws.
Right.
So
There's a bunch of them.
Right. Why do we just pick out the 10? Because it's easy, and everyone knows the 10. Well, I say everyone knows the 10.
Actually.
Well, they were, the 10 were given directly from the hand of God.
Right, to Moses, and that's what we have.
Right.
But
Well,
we asked Chuck, beforehand to name the 10 Commandments, and he did a lot better than I thought he would do.
Yeah.
He got 9.
I got 9. Yeah.
And if he wrote them down, I bet you would have got the 10th.
Probably.
Because to be fair, he missed do not steal.
Yeah, that one's like, how'd I miss that one?
Right. But we asked our kids, and they struggled to get them.
Yeah.
I don't think they got them. So,
Not the ones I asked. I didn't ask all our kids, but the ones that I asked didn't get all 10.
well, we could get Joshua online right now and be
Joshua.
like,
Put him on.
Joshua, what are the 10 Commandments? And
Yeah. Well, actually, according to the USA Today poll,
USA Today.
it says, okay, the quote is kind of cool, so I have to read the whole thing. It says, for a majority of Americans, the 10 Commandments are not set in stone.
Oh, yes.
Don't you like that?
I did ask you if you came up with that because
I
it's so
know,
cheesy,
and I was like,
but
wow,
yes.
you think I'm that smart that I could come up with that. That's cool. Anyway, so it says 60% of Americans cannot name 5 of the 10 Commandments. In fact,
5.
It is amazing what Americans do know by comparison.
Well, if they didn't know 5, I would think they would know don't kill, don't steal, don't lie. Basic don't bear false witness.
Yeah.
Then from there, it could go from don't commit adultery or don't take the Lord's name in vain. I don't know.
I saw somewhere online that I forget the number, but it was a certain percentage of Americans think that the Golden Rule was one of the 10 Commandments.
Hey,
Somewhere in the book it says
something about chicken.
Yeah, so we'll go with that.
Okay, so I like the one stat you had there. So why don't you go? You wanted to ask Chuck. I think this is debatable. The Stooges.
Okay. So
Stooges?
it says 74% of Americans can name all three Stooges. Now, this is just kind of shaming people because they don't know
Right.
the Ten Commandments, but yet they know the three Stooges. Do you know the three Stooges?
Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Larry, Curly, and Moe.
And that's not what you said.
That is not what I said. I forgot about Larry.
Exactly.
You forgot about Larry?
He said Curly Moe, and then he said,
Shem.
Shim?
Yeah, it was Shem.
I'm like, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, those are Noah's sons. Like, what are we talking about?
Wasn't Shem one of the Three Stooges? Was he later on? But she wouldn't let me look it up.
I wouldn't.
So-
I was like, no, I'm going to wait and ask Chuck because I'm like, how can you not know Larry?
Now you got me wondering because it is. I don't remember what that was related to. It was
Right.
Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
And you forgot Larry. Like, I can't
Sorry,
get over
Larry.
that. So,
Yeah, I forgot Larry.
Okay, so a lot of Americans. Now, of course, I don't know if that would be true today because...
When was this? Do you
I don't know. I do have the link somewhere. I can look it up. But,
Doesn't matter.
Anyway. Okay, so the next one is 35% of Americans can recall all 6 kids from the Brady Bunch.
35%.
Yeah,
35%.
all 6 kids of the
All
Brady
6
Bunch.
kids. Yeah, can you? Do you know the kids from the Brady Bunch?
I know we knew Greg, Cindy, and
Marcia.
Marcia. Those
Yeah.
3. But
I don't remember.
Nope.
Okay,
Couldn't care
then
less.
25% of Americans can name all 7 ingredients of a McDonald's Big Mac.
See, I feel like this one is way more than the Brady Bunch because you have the 2
Yeah.
all beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Yes. So it comes with a song.
Yeah. The other one you got to do this. What you going to say? Wait a second. Was that right? No. Go ahead.
What the Brady
No,
Bunch?
it was a fleeting thought. Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, so then it goes on. It says, here's the sad news. Only 14% of Americans can accurately name all 10 commandments.
Yes.
Yet 78% of Americans are in favor of public display of the commandments.
Yes.
How ironic. Americans affirm the 10 commandments, but can't name them.
Well, I feel like we do that with the Constitution too. Like we
Absolutely.
swear by the
Pretty much.
Constitution and
I
all the
don't know what it
amendments,
says.
and we have no clue what it says.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, important documents are irrelevant in America. We're just like whatever.
Yeah.
We'll just we want to feel like it's important. But the question is, okay, so the 10 Commandments, are they for us today?
Yeah.
And so that is a very legitimate question because, it seems like the commandments were given to Moses for the
They were.
people of Israel. And it's reiterated in the New Testament a good bit. So what are we talking about? Are we to keep the 10 Commandments? And Chuck doesn't want to go first, huh?
You looked at me.
I mean, I think of Ray Comfort and all his, that's what he goes on the street all the time. And you see, we've all seen lots of videos
Okay.
of him. And have you lied? Have you stolen? Have you?
So you want to go with the verse of if you use the law lawfully, and you can pull that one up real
Okay.
quick. We're going to go out of order, I guess.
Yes, we
And
are. And that's all.
Yeah, I
And if
think
you can find it.
I think the simplest answer is that you see the vast majority of those repeated in the New Testament.
Yes, but are we to keep them? So here's the I'm going to give you a real clue. No. Yes
Wow,
and no,
just
but
come out and
no,
say it, huh?
because of jurisdiction and because of the penalty that is associated with it. When Moses gave the law to the people of Israel, it was specifically for the people of Israel, with the 613 laws, and the punishments were different. There were certain things that would go against you. Now Jesus comes on the scene, and he reiterates a lot of these, and so I don't steal because Jesus tells me to. The 10 Commandments happen to say the same thing, but because Jesus reiterates all of them, or the New Testament reiterates all of them except for one. And that would be the Sabbath,
Right.
which is ironic because that's the Sabbath keepers are really hardcore.
Yeah.
But
Okay,
so
well, you want me to read the verse from Timothy?
sure, interrupt me.
Timothy 1:8-9 says, "But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers."
yeah, very specific things are there at the end.
Yeah.
But so the law isn't made for the righteous people, obviously.
Yeah.
So people are like, well, are we the righteous? Well, I mean, in a sense, we are because we're in Christ now. But so the law is used lawfully, like Ray Comfort does.
Right.
Go out in the streets and challenge people. Do you keep the 10 Commandments? that's gonna show their guilt and be like, wow, no, I actually don't keep the 10 Commandments, because none of us do. None of us can.
Yeah.
All of us have failed. In fact, Paul in Romans talks about how coveting caused him to stumble. He did all these things, but it was coveting that slew him. And so there's something on that list that's going to get you,
Yeah.
So it's a revealer. In fact, Jesus comes on the scene and explains them a little bit better. And maybe we want to talk about that a little bit. Maybe you can ask Chuck the same question you asked me.
Well, let's go back to this.
Okay.
You say we're not supposed to. It's not for us to keep them.
To keep,
So you're
right.
looking at the definition of keep. You're
Yes.
understanding it from a legal perspective.
Yes.
So is it okay to go commit adultery?
It is not.
Okay, so it's not okay to steal, right?
It is not.
Okay.
Very good.
So it's the fact that the 10 Commandments actually have that in them isn't what you're saying, that hey, we're not supposed to keep the 10. We're not supposed to keep the actual rule. We're not
Right,
actually supposed
absolutely.
to follow what's being said, but that it was given to a certain people at a certain time under a certain system
Yes.
that no longer is in effect.
Right, because it's tied with the laws also, the 613 laws, which we are no longer under. And according to Colossians there, we have that verse there.
I do. It says, Colossians 2:13 and 14, it says, "And you being dead in your sins and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which was contrary to us, and took it out of the way, nailing it to his cross."
He mentions the ordinances too. A lot of people like to break apart the moral law and then the ceremonial law and the dietary law. Well, this covers all the law, and says it was nailed to the cross. And so the law and its power, its punishments too, are gone away with. Now Jesus comes on the scene and he's like, hey, you've heard it said, but I say this. So it's still applicable. Like, okay, we should still not commit adultery.
Right.
We shouldn't steal. We shouldn't lie. He reiterates 9 of the 10 Commandments. So in that way, he also talks about other things, like love one another. Like, whoa, okay, well, I guess we should do that too. Is that a commandment?
Yeah.
Well, kind of. That's what he said, that was his commandments. If you love me, you keep my commandments. And the 2 commandments he said there in Matthew 5 is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Did we cover that?
Yes.
Verse? Okay.
Yeah.
And
love your neighbor as yourself.
and love your neighbor as yourself, because
And this
that's in everything.
fulfills all the law and the prophets.
Yes, it
is what
does.
he said.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I know it's a deeper subject than what we're seemingly making it, but that's the simple answer is it's a jurisdictional thing that the 10 Commandments that Moses brought down from Sinai was specifically for the people of Israel with a covenant of blood, and as Exodus points out. And so that went away when the death of the testator died, and that was Jesus. And he rose again, and now we're in the new covenant. Now, the new covenant, we're in grace, which is good.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, we just went black. There we go. Something's wrong with camera two, Joshua. But that doesn't mean that we go along committing adultery or
Murdering.
or right,
stealing.
or using his name in vain. In fact, we haven't told you what the 10 Commandments are.
Well,
No.
that's because we would expect our listeners all know what they are, right?
Of course.
Right.
Well, let's say, okay, so off the top of my head, I don't know if I can do these in order.
Okay.
Go for it.
But the first one is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind. Okay,
No.
that's Matthew 5. Okay, it's pressure time
Have.
here. Have no other gods before
There you go.
Make
Yes.
no graven images of Lord of God. And number 3 is don't take his name in vain.
Correct.
Which, can I stop on that one real
You're just
quick?
going to have to stop because you want to talk about it.
Yes.
You may as well do one more.
Well, and remember the Sabbath day. That's number 4. Those
Okay.
are like they break it down to 4 and 6, where
Right.
4 are like God related and 6 are people related.
It's easier that way.
Right, because I know. Okay, I'm at Sabbath, so I missed one. And but the third one is take the Lord's name in vain. Don't take the Lord's name in vain. This one is an interesting. A lot of people just assume that it's curse words and stuff like that. And I was telling you earlier that I said, in fact, people probably use that a little bit more properly than most Christians. So I cringe when I hear people say OMG or something like that. I'm like, you're using his name vainly. But where a lot of people really use his name vainly is when they say God said, and he hasn't said. You know, a lot of people are like, well, God told me this, and you got to be very, very careful when we go out there and say God said.
You're going to speak on behalf of God, right?
Yeah. You're using His name vainly, and so pay attention to that.
Well, like even are you talking about like sometimes from circles we're in where people just throw out, God told me to do this and go here and say this and whatever.
I get really nervous because I'm like, I feel like God's wanting me, or feel like God's leading me. I know it's a difference between feel but I think that's legitimate.
But I think feel is a lot safer. And so, you know, I don't want to ever, well, not ever, but I mean, I don't say God told me to do this.
Right.
I'll say, I feel like this is what God's leading me to do or what He's leading me to say, but I could be wrong. And I feel like when you say, God told me this, and then later something changes, you're like, well, you know, I was wrong. You were wrong. God was wrong. Like we make it out to where God doesn't know. Like one day He wants you to do this, and the next day He's changed His mind or something. It's like, no, we're the faulty ones.
We're using it in vain. Vain is just empty, you know? Yeah. So respect His name. I mean, it's. I know God's not His name, but still, we know who we're referring to when we say God. You know, it's Jehovah, God, you know, Jesus, whatever.
Don't you feel like in the Old Testament they respected His name more? Because couldn't they not even?
They couldn't even say it. Right. Yeah. Okay, so then number 5. Now I'm off. Right. Okay, so number 5 is these are out of order.
Oh, you know, number 5.
Yeah. Do not kill.
No.
Do not commit adultery.
No.
Do not steal.
No.
Wow.
Come on, the one that goes before
honor thy father and mother.
Okay. All parents know that one.
Yes, honor thy father and mother.
And we know that's reiterated in the New Testament. We can go to Ephesians. We can go. Yes. We know all those verses as parents.
Know those, yes. So honor thy mother, thy father's 5. Yep. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Do not commit adultery. I think that was out of order. And then do not covet thy neighbor's things. Yeah. And so those are, you know, we like to excuse a lot of these, you know, things in the 10 Commandments, like coveting. You know, America's it's not really coveting. I just like his stuff. You know, I just want.
It's just good advertising.
Yes, very good, very good. But these are so, you know, like, oh well, so what if I break it? Does that mean I'm going to hell? You know, that's the care. That's the thing, right? Well, don't break them. Don't go against them. I mean, because these are when you're talking about sins, most of these are not light sins. I mean, committing adultery is kind of like an easy one, right? Like, yes, under the old covenant it's bad. Under the new covenant it's bad. Mm-hmm. Lying, stealing, killing. All these things are they're not good. So, so we don't keep them to earn favor with God. We keep them because we're in Christ, if that makes sense. Now, why don't you go ahead and ask Chuck the question?
Okay. Well,
Put him on the spot.
So,
all right.
So the question I had to you earlier was that, do you think that, in the Old Testament, so we had the 10 Commandments and these 613 laws. Do you feel like under the new covenant, now that we're under grace and all, do you feel like we have a more narrow path we have to follow and stricter guidelines that it is now, you know?
Okay,
because
Chuck, don't let me down here.
You know, because personally I think of Jesus when He says, you know, under the old covenant is don't commit adultery. Now I say if you even look on a woman to lust after her, to me that's, whoa, we're getting even tighter. But anyway, go ahead. What do you think?
I think all of the laws in the Old Testament that were given to Israel and to the Jewish people really were looked upon from external, and that God's looking on the intent of the heart. So from the perspective of that, God's looking at your heart. He's seeing everything that's there, every thought. You got to take every thought captive. Yeah. Yes. From that perspective, I say, it's a lot stricter. But as far as if you're looking at a list of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, no. This it's wrapped up in the idea of love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the whole concept of it. It's wrapped up in love.
Yeah.
That should be it. So I don't have a problem with what he said, but let me say it in a different way.
Okay.
Because I think when the law was given in the Old Testament, the heart was still central. But, we have a number of places in the Old Testament, the prophets are calling people to their heart, even in the Shema, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, thy soul, thy mind, thy strength, whatever, depends on which version.
Changes.
Right. Yeah. So I think that was always at the heart, no pun intended. Where they had veered off is that it had strictly become external and just tell us what to do. Just make sure we always do this and we always put our hedge laws and all this. So I think Jesus is coming on the scene and bringing it back. and be like, yes, you're so concerned about the outside, but you're like whitewashed sepulchers. You're empty tombs. You're dead man's bones. You're only concerned. You're cleaning the outside of a grave here, and the inside is empty. And so he's making them realize, hey, you're empty inside. And that's the work of the law, right?
Yes.
When the law is at its full work, is that, hey, I can't save myself. I'm broken. I need something else. Now, what's that something else? Is Christ. They didn't have that answer necessarily in Joshua and Judges and stuff like that, or when the law was first given.
Yeah.
But when Christ comes on the scene, and that's why when he is presenting himself and the Pharisees ask him why he's talking to sinners and the people like that, and he says, "I came for the sick," but because you say you aren't sick, your sin remains, because they were so proud of their works and because of what they have done, and that they have done everything from step 1, step 2, step 3, until they are not appeased, but pleasing to God.
Yeah.
And he was pointing out, no, you're not.
Nope.
Because look at these things. I challenge you where the heart is. And so, yes, we're under grace. And so a lot of people say we're in a stricter time, but in fact, we're not. Grace is not strict at all. We're forgiven. And it's not based on the externals or anything, but it is like a heart check, if that makes any sense. So
would you say because the penalties have changed drastically? Like in the Old Testament, you break some of those laws, it's death. Like you would be killed for some of those things that you did. Whereas now, if you lie or commit adultery, even like there isn't the death penalty.
The death penalty,
or the penalty of death. Well, I'm just saying,
Right.
like we're not. You don't die for those things.
We are under grace, and but I wouldn't test it like that.
Oh,
you know
okay.
what I'm saying? Like I'm just going to go out and commit adultery just to test God's forgiveness.
I'm just saying, like now.
So
that we're under
so
grace-
you say that from as being under grace, that the penalty's not death?
Yeah, like the penalties have changed.
Right. The penalty, the wages of sin is death.
Yes.
Right.
The penalty's still death for sin.
But he took care of sin.
It may not be in the flesh now.
Right.
They may not bring you out and hang you. Some places they might.
Yeah.
Well, for some things, yes.
But if you're in Christ and you slip up in one of these things, it doesn't mean you're going to hell necessarily.
Right.
That's what you're talking about.
Right.
Right. But the issue is not like, oh, what can I get away with? And obviously, I think most people are going to understand that,
Yes.
like, yeah, I'm not trying to get away with anything here. But that is what grace has done. Grace has stepped in and forgiven us and shown us mercy when we didn't deserve it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't like try that, like.
I mean, I get it. I don't think that's a good idea. Is like, let's see how far we can go. And
I think we learned that our sins should not abound more for more grace, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, so if you say, basically it sounds like, so the 10 Commandments aren't for us today. The ones that Jesus reiterated or that are in the New Testament, those are the ones for today, as well as other things. But so, does it bother you that a lot of people don't even know them? Like, is it something we should teach our children and have, as some kind of standard? And, like, is that so important?
I think the 10 Commandments are good, like the Ray Comfort way. So the 4 first ones are, well, the 3 first ones are given, like, have no other gods before me, make no graven images, and don't use his name in vain. I think those are timeless. Those are something you should teach your kids all the time. Now, the other ones I think are rules in society. It's like, except for maybe commit adultery, but don't kill, don't steal. Covet's not. Covet is.
It's okay to covet. You won't get in trouble with the law.
Yes, that leads to stealing, though.
It does.
But it is a heart. It shows your heart. These do cover a good bit. And when you're teaching kids, when you're raising kids, I was telling one of my kids this a long time ago. It's like the story of the Bible. When you're a kid, you start out innocent, and then you sin. And then you need the law. And so we show you the law. And then as you get older, you get grace, but you need to go through that law phase so you can understand how broken you are, and like, wow, I can't do this perfectly. I'm not a perfect person. And so the law is good in that way. So, you want to display it in the Ten Commandments in schools and all that. It's fine. It shows us where a lot of our laws come from, honestly. But, the penalty of it is a little bit different. We are under grace. We're not the Jews. We're not keeping this in a legalistic sense. But if Jesus reiterates it, that's a big deal for me. I'm going to keep them. I'm going to obey them, not keep them. I guess I should say keep and obey. I mean, I know I might be splitting hairs here with words, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think, Chuck? Do you think they should be displayed? Do you think it matters?
I don't have any problem with them being displayed. I mean, there's basic principles that I think are good.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why we can't display them. We can put more out there, but I mean, if you're going to understand Christ and what his intent is, then you're really looking at more of the love your neighbor and love God. Yeah. That I mean, it's the overwhelming, overarching. These are specific items. Don't get hung up on these specific. Okay, I'm going to keep these 10 and I'm going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other. Can you earn heaven? I've heard people say, "Well, if I keep the 10 Commandments, then I can earn heaven." And I'm like, actually, you probably could.
Well, I heard a podcast and they said, we just want to start with saying that nobody can get into heaven by keeping the 10 Commandments.
Well, I would say just the 10 Commandments alone, because we know it takes faith, right?
Right.
Yes.
But if you can keep the 10 Commandments, then you don't need Christ because you have obeyed the law, basically. Which one of us has done that? And that's why I like Ray Comfort's approach, because he just goes down the 10 Commandments. He picks the easy ones, and everyone's like, yeah, I failed. Okay, so we start there. But if you could keep the 10 Commandments, then Christ is not needed. He doesn't need to come. Yeah. But obviously, look at the nation of Israel. Look at people. We have failed miserably. And so thank goodness Christ has come to set us free from the curse of the law, because we cannot keep the law.
Right.
It's just, we can't. We're incapable.
Yeah.
There's a few verses that we had to talk about that, but I guess we're running short on time. Pick a verse there, babe.
Pick a verse.
Yes. Chuck, pick a verse. I don't know. Which one sticks out?
Which one sticks out?
Okay. Obviously, we're scrolling through all of our notes.
Yeah. I feel like we talked about a lot of verses, and I don't have some of those on here, so I'm not sure where they went or whatever. But most of what I have is like where the commandment was, and then where it's reiterated in the New Testament, which I found some lists that I found interesting, because even some lists had for the Sabbath, they had a verse, and then others had question marks because it's like not in there. So I guess the Sabbath keepers are like, oh, here it is.
Right. They would. So. But it's like when they came to him talking about the law, some parts of it, and he said you should not have neglected the weightier things of justice and mercy without neglecting the former. Yeah. So that's where I'm like, the heart and the external were supposed to be tied in, but they were so focused on just tell me what to do. And we can get like that in life.
I would say, I think we do the same thing where we want, I think we talked about it last week, where we want that list, and it's like, okay, what can I not do? What can I do? Where's the line? Kind of like with your kids. If you say, okay, don't go past here, they're going to go all the way up. It's like, that's what we do.
Well, I know a guy that his life isn't one that you would be like, ooh, he's an on fire Christian, but he claims Christ, and I'm not saying he's not, but it's just he does things that are very borderline. Yeah. But he will be like, well, I can't get divorced because I don't want to commit adultery, and that's in the 10 Commandments. I don't want to do this because it's like I'm going to go to hell if I break the 10 Commandments. And like, do you realize you probably have already broken the 10 Commandments?
Yeah.
And, so I'm like, there are still people out there that this is the list, and they want to make sure they keep all these things. And if you're in Christ, you're going to keep these things. You should keep these things because you're in Christ. But it's much broader than that. it's much, I guess, much more narrow maybe, and that is it's Christ, Christ alone.
Yeah.
And when you love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself, that's it.
That is it.
Now, that's not easy, but that's it.
But if you could do that, then you'll be a perfect person, and you'll,
Yes.
be walking in the Spirit perfectly.
Would you be
and-
pleasing to God?
Oh,
Wow,
Chuck wants to
Chuck,
do another
really?
episode on that one, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, without faith, it's impossible.
but you couldn't do that without faith.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So yeah, these are. I know our governor recently just put I don't know, a law into place
Yeah,
to
he
display
did.
the
And,
Ten Commandments.
I don't usually care about politics and all, but I when I was looking up stuff about this, I found that last June, our governor, who's Jeff Landry,
Sure.
never know his name, but anyway, signed a bill into law mandating that the Ten Commandments be posted in every classroom in the state, declaring at a press event that, quote, if you want to respect the rule of law, you've got to start from the original lawgiver, which was Moses.
God, but yeah, Moses.
I know.
Okay.
Moses did give it to us, and
Right.
sure,
Yeah.
but he brought it down, and God. The Bible does talk how Moses brought the law.
Yeah.
But I think that's fine, because any display of the Ten Commandments, it's going to show. Whoa. Something just happened there. Mine keeps blinking off.
Yeah.
So there we go. The any display of those type of things gets us to think about God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we look at those laws, if that's all you see is the law, you're going to still be lost, because you're just going to be depressed. Like, wow, man, that's tough. I can't covet, all these things, and like, wow, that's an intense list. But if you use it lawfully, like Ray Comfort does, and you bring in Christ into it, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
wow, I can't do this, but He did.
That's right.
Christ
Yeah.
lived it perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I feel like the problem is, like, yesterday I was talking to a guy at Walmart, and I mean, he was talking about how he's broken these laws and whatever.
Yes.
But then he's like, but,
We talk about that.
when no, babe, when I get up and I talk to the man upstairs, I'm gonna explain myself.
Oh yeah.
And basically,
You got some splaining to do, buddy.
yeah, he does. And basically, I think he takes comfort in, we all mess up. So I'm sure you got the same problems he's got, and we all got this, similar problems or whatever. And so that's where he, finds comfort, is that we're all in the same boat. We're all doing the same thing. So of course he's going to understand, like, I messed up here, but,
Well, his problem I probably do have. Yes.
Anyway,
But yeah, his problem was lusting after you. So it's
Stop.
okay. But anyway, he told her that, but I was like, that's a little creepy.
A little bit.
He's a 70, 80-year-old man.
yeah. Anyway,
But anyway, I was a little weird.
yeah. What?
But that's the point. A lot of people think, hey man, I can explain myself. Let me
Right.
explain it to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, God's a little holy. You ain't gonna explain anything to him. He's gonna do the explaining to you.
Yeah.
He's already explained it in his word. And if you can't keep the Ten Commandments, you better find a way to get around that. And there's only one way.
Yeah.
And that's Jesus Christ.
That's right.
And so he's the only one that can fulfill this, and he's the only one that can get you through this. And so fall at his feet.
Yeah.
Don't pat yourself on the back and be like, I'm gonna do some explaining. There's no way. No explaining.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm curious what people think out there. They I know sometimes we do shock value and be like, no, you're not supposed to keep the Ten Commandments. But hopefully you understand what we were talking about there, where there's different laws, and we are not under the law anymore. We're under grace. And I thought we had a verse in there with Galatians or something like that, but no.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the next segment is going to be different and fun.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
All right.
You've got mail.
Okay, so we actually don't have email, but we have something else kind of like this. A couple of weeks ago, Sarah was reading some articles or whatever, and this thing came up in her email.
It did.
So it was in your email.
It was in
So
my
they did
email.
email you.
They did, yeah.
Yes.
It just wasn't on the show. It's my personal email because I signed up for something. I guess,
Right.
at some point.
And they were, and we talked about this, Chuck. a couple weeks ago. Oops, sorry. And I said, so if your wife asked you to lose some weight,
Oh, we're going there.
should you do it? And was that the question?
That was the question. Well,
It was your spouse. Let's not just say wife.
Not
Yeah,
just your wife.
If
Okay,
your
so
spouse
'cause if
asks
you
you,
go, yeah.
yeah, then should you lose weight?
So if
We
you're-
just assume it's the wife asking the husband, right?
because
He
it's,
doesn't assume that.
it is so insensitive for a guy to be
Yeah,
like,
would you ever?
Maybe drop some hints or something like that, but no. So, okay, so the answer for me was easy immediately. I'm like, yes, of course. If your spouse asks you to lose some weight, why not? Why? If it's within reason.
Okay, but that's like a big within reason. Like, what is within reason? How do you
Define your
that?
parameters. You're going to lose 2 pounds.
I lost weight, right?
I mean, for real, because
Well, if I weigh 150 pounds and you're saying lose 10 pounds, I don't think that's reasonable.
okay,
But if I'm at 200 and you're like, maybe lose 10 pounds, I'd be like, yeah, you're probably right. And but there might be a case where now Chuck's been losing some weight.
I lost a little weight.
because your wife asked you to.
No,
No, not specifically. No.
Well,
No.
I'm not going to throw her under the bus. But you get to a certain point where I don't know how much you've lost, but it's a good bit. But now you're starting to level off.
Yeah, it's kind of plateaus. Like, okay, I still want more to go, but it's going to take extra work to get there.
Right. So it may be more difficult.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
so then it becomes unreasonable if it's difficult.
No, not at all.
No.
But it just time frame, and we have to discuss these things. The point was, I think we need to discuss these things, and it's not just the weight. Now, that was what caught the email attention. Like,
Right.
should you lose weight if your spouse? Now, you got it, so it must have been some guy. Like, my wife needs to lose some weight. And let's be fair.
We didn't ever get any. Was there any context to it?
I actually didn't click on it and read them. So I don't know. I
man.
just saw that and I brought
That's
it up and talked to
interesting.
y'all about it because
Okay.
I was like, what do you
so
think?
we don't know the answer.
Yeah, we
No.
don't know what it was.
Anyway,
there.
we'll have to figure it out. But I think this goes along with other things.
Well, to me, it's basically like, how much control should a spouse have over the other spouse? Because if I think, maybe you should lose weight because I feel like, wow, you've really put on a lot of weight. I don't think it's
What?
good for you.
Oh.
Babe, this is hypothetical. If I don't think it's good for you, it's not healthy. And so I'm concerned for your health.
That's fine.
But what if I think that, there are many wives that think their husbands should quit doing a lot of things. It's like their husbands might smoke. Their husbands might spend too much time on the boat. Their husbands might spend too much time doing whatever, and it's not healthy. Or I saw something else where it was like, what should the husband do if he thinks his wife spends too much time scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, whatever
Fubbing.
it is, you know? And it's like, and he's truly concerned because, well, that can be a real problem. Like things aren't getting done at the house, or it's affecting her mental state because
The guys are more concerned about their wives losing weight too.
Okay, well, it could be
Women
that
don't
too.
care so much.
But I'm just saying, if you broaden it to where, like, spouses can be concerned about.
Yes. Well,
The other
here's the
person.
answer.
It does need context. It does need context to determine, what's the reason? Are you coming from? Is it being asked from a perspective of I care about you?
Yeah.
And I really, it's not like I'm shaming you and it's trying to be, and is it getting to the point? Are you nagging?
Right.
Yeah, obviously you don't want the nag.
No. Well, and 1 Corinthians talks about my body is not my own. Your body is not your own. I think it's in 1 Corinthians 7, and where you have control over my body, I have control over your body, and we shouldn't. What's the King James word there? Anyway,
We should encourage one another, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. But I think the point of all of this, no matter if it's losing weight or if it's scrolling or whatever the issues may be, the husband and wife need to communicate.
Yeah.
And they need to come to a place where, okay, this is bugging me, and is this unreasonable? And most of the time, if it's a guy, it's probably unreasonable. But but there are certain things that, like, you spend too much time on your phone. Well, if that's the attitude you come to me in, I'm not going to really receive it. But if you come to me and be like, hey, have you considered this book or this article? And I'm like, oh, spending too much time on your phone. What are you trying to say? And you're like, well, I'm concerned, that you're spending too much time and away from the family. And I'm like, okay, we can have that discussion. or if I say, hey, whenever I talk to you, you're scrolling and you're just kind of, and you say you can.
Yeah, multitask.
Right. And I'm like, but you're not paying attention to me, which is kind of ironic because guys don't really talk to their wives. So, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think the husband and wife needs to get together and communicate these things.
Yeah, I do agree. And if it's something that's impacting, if something's happening, be it the husband or the wife, is something that they're doing that has some detriment to their relationship or the relationship in the family to others, then I believe it's the responsibility of the spouse to actually bring it up and communicate that. Like this is negatively impacting us in some way.
Now, it doesn't mean that it'll change anything, because that is a different story. Like I can try and I can do this, but I might fail and it might get worse. I'm trying to lose weight.
You probably shouldn't, have Brussels sprouts every night.
I'll lose weight then.
You would lose weight. So, that would accomplish what I'm trying.
It would accomplish.
But then I would have a problem.
Yes, that's right.
We are not having this every night. We got to sit down and talk, babe, about our meal planning.
Yeah. I do think that communication is obviously key. And also, I think coming from a woman's perspective, I feel like women in general want to make things better because we have kids and we want to fix everything.
That seems like a guy's thing. We just want to fix everything.
No, I don't.
You want to fix us.
Yeah, we want to fix you. It's like, we know things that would make you better and make you whatever. And so we have a heart to I want you to be better, because not because I don't like you the way you are, but I'm like, I know you could be even better if you did this or this or this. So.
That is what every man does not want to hear.
Anyway, so yeah, but I think you have to, just watch your heart and then open communication.
Most of the time, it's because we want to help each other out. I hope I'm more sensitive to the point where I just don't come out and say, babe, it's time to lose 50 pounds. If you lost 50 pounds, you'd die. But you know what I mean? It's right. Like if, this house is a wreck, maybe you need to participate in some of the solution too. Yeah. And so if instead of just your spouse, husband or wife, going on a diet, maybe you go on the diet together to make it easier. Because if I tell you to go on a diet and then I'm getting Raising Cane's every meal, that's going to be a little bit more difficult. You're like, well, why are we having cookies and ice cream every night all of a sudden? So, yeah, I think the point, though, and we didn't read that article, but it just struck our attention and started a conversation for us, is that husband and wife needs to get together, discuss these issues. If you start talking about all these issues, it can be a drag sometimes. Yeah. Pick out the important ones. Is losing weight really that important? Well, for whatever reason, Chuck decided to lose weight.
I will say this too: if you do it and you keep yourself from the foods that taste really good that are bad for you, when you do eat some of that, it is. I had ice cream the other night. It was so good.
I'll believe you.
It was like, wow, I forgot how good this stuff was. I better not eat anymore.
I should tell you the story of my favorite meal.
Oh my goodness.
What? Anyway, fried chicken is good, but when you've gone through a flood, it's even better. So yes. Anyways,
favorite meal of all time. It doesn't. Yeah.
Yes, it doesn't matter, but context is important. So yeah, what Chuck says there is very, very important. You know your heart. Talk about these things within reason, But to get to that reason, you have to talk. So anyway, I thought people might enjoy that, listening to that, and it's kind of fun. But go home and ask your spouse and say, hey, what would you say if I asked you to lose some weight, and see what would happen? So
create some conversation.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks for listening. And I don't know, the music's on is next.
Music with Sarah.
What song do you like?
All right, babe. This is your song of the week.
It is.
And this week is a song that I believe that we have done before. But you're going to say no.
I don't believe I have. I have a document where I keep track of all of my songs. And so as far as I can tell, I've never done this one. I also have a playlist on Spotify that has my song of the week since the beginning, and it's not on there. But if it is, this song is called Sing His Praise Again. So we'll sing it again.
That seems to be a theme, because this is like our second take doing this. So we'll do it again. And even if we've already done it, we're going to sing it again.
That's right.
So tell me again, why do you like this?
So this song is by Bethel, Jen Johnson, and but I love this song because I feel like it's a song that makes me happy. It's like when you're down, when you're discouraged, it's like, what do? Oh, my soul, sing His praise again, and just sing it again. And it's one of those songs actually that I don't know if there's a name for them, but basically they can just go on forever, because to me the highlight.
Repeating songs? Repeating? Go on.
I mean, I guess, yeah. The thing is, when you get to the bridge, it says, remember how our God has never failed us. Remember that His name will make a way. And it just goes, and then they'll go back into the chorus. Oh, my soul, sing His praise again. And then
it's like the song that never ends.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I actually love that. Like, it's one of the things I look forward to most about heaven is that I'll just be able to keep singing and I won't lose my voice. And so I want to keep singing His praise again. Sometimes I just can't. But this song makes me happy. And I looked up sing in the Bible, sing as in sing, singing, all the forms of sing, and it's in there.
Song.
Maybe I didn't go that far.
Song.
But anything in the Bible is sing, and it's in there 196 times. That is a lot of times. Okay. And not only that, but I also looked up the word remember, because that's my favorite part when it says, remember how our God's never failed us. And that is the word remember, or forms of the word remember, are in there 214 times.
So you're telling me remember is in the Bible more than sing?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Now, of course, I didn't, break it down into some of those. It's a lot of remembering of different things. Sometimes God remembers things. Anyway, but I think He wants us to remember things. Yeah. And so many, I just started reading through some of them, and it's like, remember, He wants them to remember what He did, how He brought them out of Egypt. He wants them to remember all these things. And I think He wants us to remember things. And that's why I think we should sing His praise again and sing it again and sing it again.
Yes.
Because we forget things.
We do forget things, and it's good to be reminded. And that's why songs are really good, because you remember them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so anyways, this is like our second time doing this recording, just to let people know. But so hopefully this doesn't fail again, or else it just gets shorter and shorter each time we talk about it, because like we already said this.
Well, yeah, and this song I did, it's also the last couple of weeks I've done really old songs, and this one's from 2020, so I thought, okay, it's not, it's fairly recent, and it's one that to me just gets in my head and it makes me happy, and I think we should just keep singing His praises. And when things aren't going your way, sing, rejoice in the Lord, because it'll change your attitude, it'll change your whole day, change your mindset. So anyway, I think you should go check it out and have some fun.
Yeah, I mean, 2020, that was 5 years ago. So according to Sarah, 5 years ago is new.
Okay, not new, but recent compared to like 70s and 80s.
No, that's fine.
So.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
but
great song.
You can kind of hear it playing in the background. It sounds like it's looping, but it's just the same song. It's all right. It's all right to have repeating songs every once in a while, but it's the whole point is to sing His praise again, and we should do that constantly, because He's worthy of it. But it is a good reminder to sing His praise again. So go check it out. There's a couple different versions out. You were just watching the new one right before we got on here.
I was. I've pretty much always stuck to the original version, and then I found another one on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good too. So anyway, as far as I can tell, they're all good. So go listen to it and be encouraged.
It's sing your praise again.
Sing His praise again.
Sing His praise again, Bethel.
By Bethel or
not
Jen
necessarily
Johnson.
Endorsing.
Yeah,
that every once in a while, broken clock is right twice, something like that, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
So, go check it out. It's a good song. You like singing it, and we've performed it a number of times, so it's a good one to do. So, all right, check it out.
All right.
The Mike Charleston Show is brought to you by Fellowship of Believers. For more information, go to our website at fellowshipofbelievers.org. Thank you for listening. We hope we have encouraged you to stand strong in the Lord Jesus and grow in Him.